a galaxy far, far away, there lived an ogre named Shrek who was
Okay.
aboard the
Okay.
Death
Okay.
Star.
Now we're getting to the fanfic.
No,
So you're telling me you have not thought about Shrek in Star Wars? Came off of that at the top of the dome?
he said, Luke, get out of my swamp. I'm not your father.
See, now I'm getting really suspicious because you continue the story.
In all seriousness, welcome back to the Nerd Table. I am your host, Kyle, as always, and joining me tonight is not Nathan, unfortunately.
Sadly, it's you're stuck with me again, Jarrett.
Yes, the other one.
Oh,
And
wow, thanks.
you're welcome. At least I acknowledged your presence. Episode 2, The Empire Strikes Back. You know, wasn't that such a great movie?
Uh, Something I watched probably way too much. Yeah. Honestly, not the best one.
Well, it was kind of our lived experience being in a frozen state. So, every day going to school in winter was basically
Oh.
that scene, the opening scene from that movie. So,
Well, you know, you never had to wait at a bus stop in the fucking cold, and you always got drove to school.
and
Oh, drink of the day. Same thing as yesterday. Vodka, orange, classic.
yeah, I have water, stay hydrated, people.
No,
It's
he's
important.
actually drinking vodka.
Well, it looks like water, but
Nope, it's vodka.
okay, I'll take your word for it. We are here on episode 2 of the Nerd Table podcast, where two nerds talk about a table for too long. And this episode, we're going to be talking about the Hobbit to the Lord of the Rings in the sense of
Wrong. Yes, wrong podcast.
wrong podcast.
Wrong podcast.
Well, I know this is The Empire Strikes Back, but you do know that Lord of the Rings and Star Wars are similar in many ways, and we can have a debate on this.
Yeah, I was gonna say, you know how many times we talked about those two series,
Way too
like
much.
throughout high school?
Way too much.
Yeah,
But
and
this
both
is the
equal.
thing.
I would talk about Star Wars much, and you would talk about Hobbit, Lord of the Rings way too much.
Well, as you can tell from my little bubble that pops up when I speak, I like Lord of the Rings a little too much. Episode 2, being The Hobbit, makes sense and actually fits the narrative of this
How is
episode.
it episode 2 of The Hobbit? You gonna sit here and talk about The Hobbit?
It's because The Hobbit is important for Lord of the Rings. However, if you don't know about The Hobbit, you can still enjoy Lord of the Rings. So, in this episode, we're going to be talking about middle school, 7th grade, 8th grade, and maybe we'll end with the beginning of
How
ninth grade.
long did that take you to write?
How long did it
No
take me?
way that just came. No way that came off your dome.
What?
That whole little speech you just gave. No way.
I made that up, the whole thing.
No fucking way. I don't believe that.
No, wait, I have nothing here. We need to begin with the first class that we had together, which we had a couple of classes together. Were you in
It was definitely upstairs at the end of the hall. One of those two classrooms. It was either English or history was the first two that we met.
yes, we definitely had Miss Pelkey together for
Yes.
history.
But Jet was also in one of those classes, so I didn't get to talk to him. I remember that.
Yes. And so
I got it. So Miss Pelkey, it was me, you, Jet. I think Cody was in there too, maybe. I don't
yeah.
remember much like about who was in there. Because I remember we were in the back row, basically just fucking about.
Yeah,
Because that's when we were like friends
y-
in middle school.
we used to play cool math games in the back of the classroom
Yep.
because we
Yep.
didn't really do much. In the days
And
before we
somebody had Minecraft.
Yep.
in like the system 2 already.
Yeah, the
So
first
it was
Minecraft.
like oh yeah, I remember playing fucking Minecraft. Well, it's like the teacher's talking about yeah, like blah 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 blah. That's all we.
That was a fun class, though. I really liked Miss Pelkey's class. I do
She
know
was
that,
a fun. She was like definitely one of the best.
yeah, she was one of the best middle school teachers. But
She was. And Mick, we can't forget about Mick. Mick was also, I think, in Miss Pelkey's class, but they were not like really talking to us though. But they might come up.
yeah, and when people's names do come up that we haven't introduced before, we should make sure to stop and actually give some context. And
Yeah,
later on
kind
in
of
the series,
introduce them.
yeah,
Like,
people who
yeah,
will be recurring characters, especially. And hopefully they will be guests at some point in the future. Episode 1 was the train wreck. This is the train has fallen off a cliff into the ocean and is sinking to
and
the
is
bottom.
we are going in the Mariana Trench right now. So I
Exactly.
hope everyone has their scuba diving gear on, and if anything actually goes wrong, the exits are to the right and left of the train. It's called pull your window down and hope to God your light vest works.
Yeah, this is going to require a lot of editing. The, the
I kind
last
of.
episode's joke was this is all staying in. This episode's joke is this is getting edited out, and it probably won't because I don't have 5 years of my life to spend on
Should
this.
we just start over?
No, we're not starting over. Okay, the train is now back on the tracks, and we are in Miss Pelkey's class, 7th grade social studies. I remember we sat together in that class, and we were on good terms for about half the year, maybe, like the first
Yeah,
semester
about like the first
or the first quarter.
two. It was like the first, yeah, like first probably 2 quarters, maybe halfway through the second one.
I think so. I think later the reason why I grouped up with Tyler on projects later on was because we weren't talking anymore,
Yeah.
and so
And
Tyler and
by
I,
the end of the second quarter, we already all switched classes, so I wasn't even in the class
yeah,
with
you
you. I
left the
don't think.
classes anyway,
Yeah,
and Tyler and I made a communist utopia in Antarctica, just for
I
context.
do remember you talking about that a lot, like in high school.
Well, it's because
Like
I didn't understand politics back then. I just middle
you're
school
just gonna have to, yeah,
there
keep
isn't
going.
as much to talk about with middle school because
Not really,
if Nathan
because
was
we
actually
weren't.
here,
He
he
was
could
like the
talk about
middle
it.
ground.
He
It would.
was
He
yeah,
was like the person that like we would both talk to, but we never saw each other talking. You know what I mean?
exactly. He was the our mutual friend at this
And
point.
I remember. I think. Do we want to touch on like us, like our little spout?
It was after Miss Pelkey's class one day, I think, in the hallway.
Um. Yeah, it was on the stairs going back down to where all the lockers were.
Yep. And
I remember that. And we like the door shut and like you were talking about like hanging out or something. I think.
yeah, I was because you had already flaked out on me once before at this point.
Yeah, and like and that was like kind of like the decrease. I was like, oh man, fuck this.
Yeah, I was just too pushy, I guess.
And then you like kind of confronted me in the stairwell when like nobody else was there. And I remember being like, I think I said like I don't want to hang out with a loser or something like along those lines, if I remember correctly, right?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think you called me a loser, but you were just, it was weird. It more
Yeah, it was
confused
so
me.
it was that was like what my brain smushed it down to because I remember it was like a whole like kind of conversation back and forth though. But my
Yeah,
brain goes like basically that. It was like you're just shitting on him
I
for
mean,
no reason. Literally no reason. That's it. It was just no reason.
I was more confused about it than anything, so
Oh, that's reasonable because I don't know why the fuck. Like to this day, I was like, yeah, you know what? Fuck this dude today. I don't know why I did that.
well, as viewers, as you can clearly see, we're friends again, which Is this big
Yeah, it's
question
a
of
weird
why?
it's a weird arc. After that, we just never really I never really saw you because you always ate on the other side of the cafeteria because that's when I like hooked up more with Nate, Tyler, Isaac, um, Oakley.
That's right. You were always in the north cafeteria. I was always in the
Yeah, I was
south.
always and you were in the South at the nerd table.
I was at the nerd table. The nerd table was
You
my
held the
table.
throne.
That was my
You held the
realm.
throne.
It was me, Jet, Cody, Emily. So with the cafeteria, and this is an important bit of going off the rails. There were
Yeah,
two different cafeterias, and there was the north cafeteria, the south cafeteria. I
and then the
always forgot
kitchen
the
in the
north
middle.
cafeteria. Yeah, I always forgot the north cafeteria even existed. I don't know who even
But
sat
the
there.
North and South cafeterias always had different foods.
They did. I always got
So
food. That's what it was. I always got food from the north cafeteria, and I always
yes, because
ate in the
that's
south
where
cafeteria.
the pizza eventually got switched to the South cafeteria,
Yes,
but
it
it used
did.
to be in the North, and that's why we always hung up in the North cafeteria because it was like I in middle school after we like had our little spout, we would sit right after the line. Like you would go out, grab your milk, go to the table. Our table was right after the line, like right there. Every time there was either the one on the right or the one on the left, and we had the round table,
Yeah,
so it was perfect because you could just grab chairs from other tables that didn't, have spots.
and I would always get food in the north cafeteria because yes, there was the pizza, there was the pasta, there was the daily thing that
Once in a
changed,
while, the lasagna
the
and the
meatball
tortellini too.
subs.
The oh, the
Those
meatball
were the best.
sauce.
The General Chow's
The
chicken.
bread wasn't good, but the sub itself was like the meatballs and cheese and the sauce and the good shit. That was good.
And this was
Bread
all,
soggy.
yeah, I mean, this was all pre Michelle Obama's change of the food,
Yeah, and
which
then the pizza became fucking.
the pizza was always stuffed crust.
Yeah,
And
that was the only good part was the stuffed crust. The
the rest
pizza
of it's,
itself looked like it was like out in the sun for like a week, and it tasted like you were chewing on leather. Like it was, it was so bad.
the quality was bad, but at least it tasted good back then. And there's a lot of food stories.
Yeah,
Uh,
because that's why it's called the nerd table. 'Cause that's where we'd all be.
we'd all congregate at the table that I had since middle school. The table in the South cafeteria, which had salad, no, it wasn't salad, it was the sandwiches, was in the South.
Sandwiches, yeah, and wraps
Yeah, so if
like
you want to get a
Doritos.
custom sandwich, which who would because it's all crap food
There was a
anyway.
there was like a fair amount.
I mean, it was decent, but I don't know why we never got sandwiches because I only went on that side when the special and the pizza was on that side.
Yeah, when it was it wasn't really their pizza. It was like I remember they ordered pizza before, and like that was the pizza we got.
Yeah, and I
But
guess,
every time it was on that side, it was the best.
oh
And
yeah,
I think that your side was also where they had that was the special side, like the meatball subs, the tortellini.
yeah. So that was the North
Um,
cafeteria side.
yeah,
Was
that was the North Carrot. Yeah, that was like the special. But they
yeah.
always had pizza. They always had pizza.
So yeah, that's why I would always get food in the North and eat in the South. I don't know why that was the case. It's
No,
just
we still did that all the way through high school,
all the way through
all
high
the way.
school. But that's
Because I don't know.
that's
It's
what I
just
started.
like yeah, that not even that. Like I did it. Like that was just the better side. Like they had the Jellos and like that
The
was like for
pudding.
the kids that didn't eat their veggies. You know what I mean?
I mean, the South cafeteria was such a interesting place. So the nerd table was located. What was it? One
It was
table in from the
two.
corner.
So there was the hallway, and then the emergency door that lead it, or like it wasn't really. It was a door, but it was the emergency exit as well. There was a door right there, and it was immediately after that door, table. That was the table.
Yeah, we were right next to the door.
There was a table to the left, but that was only used like one year. And then they moved up one table. Remember that? That was where Gene would like sit with Hartley, Danny, his brother, that group.
Yeah, that
They
was
used to
later.
sit in that corner, and then they moved up one.
Yeah, this
Like
is
that's later on, but yeah,
this is all
we
foreshadowing.
were immediately to the first table once you enter
The first table to the right and to the
to the right.
left was the other group, and then the Hicks were
It
in
was
the
like the
far right
theater
corner.
kids to the left. It was like the
Yeah.
theater,
So
and
we were,
then all the way to the right were the Hicks.
yep, the Hicks sat there, and then the
But they
popular.
used to sit in middle school. They sat on the other side because the seniors would sit on the other on the north or on the south side.
All right.
But that table always has been a hick table.
Yes, that's a Hick table.
I wonder if our table is still the nerd table.
Well, we'll get into this when we get later on, but like I don't think
Yeah.
we had. It was all our class. There weren't anyone else from lower classes who ever sat at our
No,
table.
because in middle school it was everybody in middle school had the same lunch together. Remember that?
Did we?
Yeah. I'm pretty sure everybody had lunch together. That was before the flex.
Oh, this is getting way way too into it. But yeah,
That we all had lunch, not the high school, middle school, or yeah, we didn't. High school and middle school still was separate.
I think we had two different lunches. We had two different
We
lunch
we
times.
did, but it was only. I'm pretty sure. I don't know if I'm right or not, but I'm pretty sure it was high school would have their lunch, and then middle school,
No,
or it
middle
was
school was
middle school
first.
then high school. Yeah, middle school then high school, but it
Yes.
was everybody because I remember being in study hall right after lunch looking outside to the high schoolers playing soccer in the field,
Yeah, it's like, oh, they're having fun.
Yeah, and I'm in here doing homework. Like,
But that
do you not
sucked.
remember any of
Once
that?
you got to high school and you had that 1:15 lunch, that was always brutal.
Oh,
Versus like a 11 o'clock lunch in middle school, for example.
yeah. I always had the 11 o'clock lunch unless it was a Friday.
Going back to the narrative here. So that's where the nerd table was situated. And basically throughout middle school, I only sat with those people from Pomfret at that table, and that was it. And the food was great in middle school, before the whole food reform thing happened. So in 8th grade, as our next bullet point, I don't remember many classes with friends. I kind of was on my own for most of it.
Eighth grade was weird.
It was kind of
Yeah.
a weird thing, and I
I'll
corrected.
touch on it on my side, but you keep going.
All right. There was a history teacher who got some stuff wrong, and I always corrected her on it. So I kind of became known as the history nerd at that point in 8th grade. I
Yeah.
also did Scholars Bowl. I did the
You
Science
were you were
Bowl.
in a couple clubs.
I
Yeah,
did
you
the
were in a couple.
GOB, the Geography B, and I won in 8th grade. I beat everyone else in the school and then made it to Middlebury where I made it to the finals and had a really easy question that I spaced on and didn't answer. I would have won that whole thing and made it to Washington, but I didn't want to go, so that's fair. But I could have gone. It sticks with me. That memory is just, it haunts me. So yeah, that was 8th grade for me. I
That's
had
about it. Yeah.
There was science with Mr. Becker, and Nathan and Cody were in that class, and we did some group projects. And I really wish Nathan was here to talk about it because just having some more context about that class. These are the dark ages, so we don't really remember
Should I
too much
touch on
about it.
my eighth grade
Yeah,
story and then
yeah, you
we'll
go go
go
ahead.
into fucking ninth grade?
Yeah, then we'll talk quickly about the beginning of ninth grade once.
So after our tangent, all that, and then after the second, like at the fall part into winter, we had different classes. I remember that because shortly after they were like, "This fucking kid, stupid." Like he can't be in this English class, can't be in this math class, etc. So I got stuck with Jacob Sawyer and Evan Hotchkiss. I fucking love Evan. He was the funniest dude in the world, but I never like. I always considered him like one of my good friends, but I never like actually hung out with him, and I feel like that was like I shoulda like because he could have been a good friend. Like Evan, if you hear this, hit me up because I thought you were the funniest motherfucker in that class, and I loved hanging out with you. And we have definitely a couple funny stories in class together. I know that. But he was the Killington, like he was like pretty good at snowboarding, so like I never got like a chance because I was like, oh, dude, this dude is too cool, you know?
Hmm.
Because he did the snowboarding team and all that, and he was actually like really good, right up there with the other Evan Block. Uh, uh,
Which, if you want to come on this podcast, Evan Block, I think that'd be
yeah,
really
no,
fun.
I have a funny story after high school with Evan Block.
All right, we'll get there.
You will get there, but Evan, you are also another person that I wanted to talk to a lot, but I always thought you guys were too cool. Like, do you want to? Do you have anything to like background Evan?
Evan Block. Oh man,
Not like high school Evan, like middle school
middle
Evan.
school.
Like
I didn't really know him in middle
it
school.
was so like he was so funny
Oh, he was
because he was
the
like he was
best.
so full of energy.
Oh
You
yeah.
remember? He was so full of energy, and his smile, that $1,000,000 smile, ear to ear smile. I remember that. My favorite class throughout 8th grade was with Mrs. Fellows, and it was what was it? It was nature science or something. Like we made biodome.
Oh, I
Remember
remember
that?
that. Yeah.
That was my favorite shit. I loved doing that. That was my favorite class. I don't remember what it was called.
That was really fun. That was
It was called like
some.
bioscience.
Yeah.
I don't remember. Yeah, and then like it was so fun.
8th grade English class with Miss Coleman. I sat next to Isaac. Isaac was one of Nathan's friends as well, which is why it'd be really nice if Nathan was here to talk about Isaac. And we hung out once or twice, and then he moved away at the end of 8th grade. So he was not a part of the nerd
Right
table
before high school,
officially,
like that summer.
but he could be an honorary member if he hears this and wants to take part in the conversation. Um,
If we can get a hold of him.
if we can get a hold of him, it'd be nice to get some guests on this podcast because I have already had enough talking to you because you're a loser.
Wow, 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 wow.
I don't want to be friends with you. You're such a
Wow,
loser.
we're gonna 360 this like in our 20s. Damn. Okay, I'll see you in my 30s, bitch.
I'm kidding. I'm kidding. So I'm not gonna say names, and I apologize to any of you if you do hear
Unless
this.
we
I
get them
was
on.
weird. I was a weird
Unless we
kid.
get them on.
Unless we get them on, and then I will say names. But if you can't, I will not say names because it's embarrassing, and I'm sorry. I just need to say that. Okay, back to ninth
Dude,
grade.
I really wanted to say the name. 'Cause I know.
There's a couple. There's a couple. I'm not gonna say names.
Continue. Sorry. Continue. I'll try.
So ninth grade, beginning of ninth grade, Jet and I were sitting at the nerd table, which wasn't called the nerd table then, but there was some kid at the other side of the cafeteria with a tray because you always ate in the north cafeteria, so you were in foreign territory at this point in the south, because you're a
I
Yank
don't
coming
want to
down with us
interrupt. I
revs.
want you to say your side of the story,
Yeah.
and then I want to come in because
Okay.
I already have one difference.
All right. So you were walking. I was talking with Jet. I was like, "Hey, look, you see that guy over
Never mind.
there?
I don't have a difference anymore. You actually corrected. I was walking
Yeah, you
like
were walking
into
into the cafeteria.
your territory. Yeah,
We were watching the door, and the popular kids were like crowding a table right in front of us. I remember that,
right in the middle, right
right
by
in the
the
middle of the
pillar.
cafeteria, and we were on the wall. And Jet's like, oh, we should offer to give this guy a seat. We have room at the table. And I was like, no, this guy's an asshole. Like, I don't want to sit next to him. He told me he wasn't my friend anymore and made me feel like a terrible person. And he was like, oh, really? Like, we should still be nice, though. And I was like, ah, fuck him, whatever.
3 seconds later.
Literally, as I'm saying that, we lock eyes, basically, and you walk to the table and sit down and pretend that nothing happened. And I'm like, in
Yep.
my head, I'm like, well, this is awkward.
Yep.
And then Jet started talking to you before I did, from what I remember. But
So okay,
what's your
I'm gonna
side of
cut.
it?
I'm gonna say my side up until that. So I was on the north side where me, Nate, and everybody. That's when like the lunches were like it was separate. It wasn't everybody at once. It was like two different groups would eat. You know, that's the switch, and that is what like ultimately made me go back to your table. Honestly, so I sat down at the table going like, oh, like, Nate, Isaac, Tyler, they'll all come soon. They're just like a little late because the class was running a little long. They didn't show up. Then Ezra from the Hick table on my side goes, hey, do you want to sit with us? And at that point I was like, oh fuck, my friends aren't coming. And I have to eat lunch alone.
Oh no.
And then I say no to Ezra and I pick up my tray and I start walking over to the other side, being like, oh, maybe they're on the other side. And then when I walked in and saw nobody else, I was like, well, I'm not eating alone. And I looked at you guys, and
Because we
then
were
that's when I
losers.
saw your head turn to like Jed, and then I was like, oh, I'm about to do this, aren't I? And I just fucking went like, yep, and walked over and sat down right next to you
Mm-hmm.
instead of Jet. And I straight up was like, hey, is this okay if I sit right next to you guys? And Jet was like, oh yeah, no, that's fine. Like immediately.
Yeah, because he was the nice one back then.
Yeah, he was. And then like
Uh,
2 3 days went by, and then we just acted like that whole little squaffle didn't happen.
exactly.
We were buddy buddy.
We were all
And
buddy
then like
buddy.
shortly, like a month later, I went over to your house and we went sledding. And then ever since then, we just friendship launched.
Exactly. It just took me realizing that, we
That
were
I
just
am sometimes an asshole, and sometimes I don't mean it.
4 years
We
of high
did have a
school.
good laugh about it too,
Yeah,
if
it
I
was
remember
great.
correctly,
We
in
did.
the snow whilst we were sledding
Yeah.
at your house.
So at that point, I think our group was like Cody, Jet, you, and me at that
Yeah,
point.
because it started with just me, you, and Jet at the nerd table, which was declared shortly after I sat down.
Yeah, I think
Not
we.
like it was like a month or two, but it was declared before I think the lunch the next semester or the when the lunches changed, and then it was me, you, Nate, Isaac,
Isaac wasn't
and
there in ninth
Jet.
grade.
Oh, not Isaac. Sorry. Who is it? Cody.
This is the beginning of high school. This is before Jet went away. And ultimately, what happened? We need to wrap up this thing soon because this is just going on and on. I think
On and on. Yeah.
we have the creation of the nerd table, which is
I think that's what we should end it like
well, I need
the
to explain what happens because the next chapter is going to be second semester freshman year when we actually have Nathan involved.
oh, Forrest. We keep oh man,
Oh
we've
yeah,
been
Forrest was
neglecting
there too.
Forrest.
Of the first semester freshman year, Jet ended up going to a different school because he was getting bullied, and apparently I didn't do a good enough job of protecting him from being bullied from people he was antagonizing. In college, I met someone who went to that Christian school that he went to.
Oh no.
And this guy, I was talking to him, I was like, oh yeah, you went there. Do you know Jet? And he's like, oh, that guy was an asshole. Apparently, Jet got bullied so bad in Christian school, he had to go to Arizona.
Oh my god.
um, but yeah, that ended badly because he told me I wasn't a good friend, and I just snapped, and that wasn't fun. We don't need to get into that.
It was
We're not
like the
gonna get
same
into
thing
it.
that I did to Kyle, but they never made up.
It was worse because, yeah, I had known Jet since second grade. So considering we had been friends for so long, like for you, when you said that, like we weren't really friends. Like we were,
Yeah, it
we
was
knew
like
each other
maybe
like a few months.
maybe a few months. Yeah, like 3, 4, maybe.
But I had known Jet for, at that point, what, like 6, 7
We were
years?
going we were going on what, 15? So you were 14?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, 14, that makes sense. So that
Yeah.
ended pretty poorly. And Jet will not be in any more of this podcast because he vanished and went to Arizona. I think we covered everything from middle school because the people, if we get
Now
guests in,
we're like a little bit into ninth grade,
yeah, yeah,
like
we're into ninth grade. Everything's established. The group is established, or the initial group is established. And I think the next episode we will go into the group dynamic in ninth grade. So
so
yeah,
do you have
what's for lunch
anything to
tomorrow?
say?
Is it General Chow's
What's for
chicken?
lunch?
Is it the meatball sub? Is
Well,
it
well, as long as they bring that soggy piece of bread that they call a meatball sub over, they can sit with us.